In the Middle Ages, life looked completely different from the world we know today. Children grew fast, adulthood came early, and innocence rarely lasted long. For many girls, childhood ended the moment they reached the age of 12. Because at 12, a girl was no longer seen as a child. She was seen as a woman, a future wife, a future mother, a piece in a much larger system of survival. Today, we find this shocking, even disturbing. But for medieval families, this choice was practical and often necessary. To understand why girls married at such a young age, we must enter their world, a world shaped by fear, faith, property, reputation, and the harsh realities of a short life. First, we need to understand medieval lifespan. Most people did not live beyond their 30s or 40s, not because they simply dropped dead, but because childhood was incredibly dangerous. Diseases, infections, poor sanitation, contaminated water, famine, and constant physical labor made survival uncertain at every age. If a girl lived long enough to reach 12, her parents quietly celebrated. They thought, she survived the hardest part. She has a chance now. But the future remained fragile. Every year carried new risks, and nothing was guaranteed. In a world where death was always close, families made decisions based on survival, not emotion. Marrying early wasn't considered cruelty. It was considered protection, a way to secure the girl's future before illness, war, or disaster could take it away. The laws of the time supported this thinking. Under medieval canon law, the laws of the church, a girl could legally marry at 12, a boy at 14. These numbers were chosen because the church believed this was the age of physical maturity. Not emotional maturity, not intellectual maturity, simply the age when a girl could potentially bear children. Marriage was tied to reproduction. Reproduction was tied to survival. And survival was tied to the continuation of the community. Priests encouraged early marriage. The church believed that a married girl was protected from temptation, from sin, and from rumors that could damage the family's honor. Virginity was seen as valuable, a kind of spiritual and social currency, and marriage protected that value before anything could threaten it. A girl who reached 12 was spiritually vulnerable, according to the beliefs of the time. The church thought marriage provided moral safety and social stability. But beyond religion, the economy played an enormous role. In medieval society, daughters were rarely considered financial assets. They were responsibilities, mouths to feed, bodies to clothe, reputations to protect. Food was scarce. Resources were limited. Life was expensive even for those who had almost nothing. For poor families, especially peasants and serfs, surviving winter required strict planning. Marrying off a daughter early meant one less person to support. It meant the family no longer carried the burden of protecting her purity, feeding her, and preparing her for adulthood. For wealthy families, nobles, merchants, and landowners, marriage was not about saving food. It was about strategy. Land was power. Alliances were power. A 12-year-old girl could unify two families, merge territory, or strengthen political influence. Marriage was a contract long before it was ever a relationship. Her age mattered less than what her marriage could achieve. From childhood, girls were trained for tea. From childhood, girls were trained for this future. Between the ages of 7 and 8, they began learning the skills expected of a medieval wife. They learned to weave wool, mend clothing, tend fires, carry water, bake bread, prepare herbs, raise children, manage animals, and clean the household. By 12, a girl could perform nearly every task expected of an adult woman. Marriage, in the medieval world, was not a romantic union. It was labor. It was responsibility. It was the foundation of a functioning home. And a young girl was seen as capable of joining that system far earlier than we imagine today. Social pressure played an enormous role as well. A girl who remained unmarried for too long became the center of gossip. Neighbors whispered. Women questioned. Men speculated. Why is she still in her parents' home? Is something wrong with her? Is the family hiding something? Honor was collective, not individual. If a girl stayed unmarried past the socially accepted age, the entire family suffered reputational damage. This fear pushed parents to secure a marriage quickly, before any rumor, true or false, could stain their household. Reputation in the Middle Ages was fragile. A whisper could ruin a future. A rumor could break an alliance. And a single mistake could destroy a girl's life entirely. Marriage became a shield, a way to protect a daughter's honor, and by extension, the honor of the entire family. Even daily life shaped these expectations. Girls lived in small villages where everyone knew one another. They worked from sunrise to sunset, gathering water, grinding grain, tending gardens, helping with livestock, and caring for younger siblings. Children matured fast because they had no choice. A 12-year-old medieval girl was not like a 12-year-old today. While she was still a child emotionally, the world treated her as an adult. Childhood, as we understand it, did not exist. Girls were rarely given time to grow, learn, or explore their identities. Their purpose was clear, defined, and enforced by tradition: to become wives and mothers as soon as possible. Marriage was the beginning of that destiny. But we must also understand that medieval parents loved their daughters deeply. They did not send them into marriage out of cruelty. They did so out of fear: fear of poverty, fear of hunger, fear of scavenging winter, fear of losing honor, fear of losing land, fear of illness, fear of war. Every decision was shaped by a world without hospitals, without social safety nets, without protection. Marriage was security. Marriage was survival. Families believed they were doing the safest thing. What we see as tragic, they saw as necessary. Religion reinforced this idea. Priests preached about obedience, purity, and duty. Girls were taught that their purpose was to serve their families and later their husbands. The church provided the moral justification. Society provided the pressure. The economy provided the incentive. And daily life provided the reality. Many marriages were arranged long before the girl even reached the age of 12. Some were betrothed as babies or toddlers. The moment she reached the legal age, the ceremony took place. Sometimes she barely knew the man she was marrying. Sometimes he was much older, 20, 30, even 40. This, too, was seen as normal. A man needed a wife who could bear children, manage a home, prepare food, spin wool, and support him in his work. Age differences did not matter. Capability mattered. The wedding itself was often simple: a blessing from the priest, a joining of hands, a shared meal, and then a new life, ready or not. For the girl, the transition was immediate. She went from daughter to wife in a single day. She moved into her husband's household. She left behind childhood friends, siblings, her mother's guidance, her father's protection. Her new life was filled with responsibilities, expectations, and often great difficulty. And yet, despite the hardships, many medieval girls found ways to adapt. Some became strong household managers. Some became respected members of their communities. Some became mothers who loved fiercely and protected their children with everything they had. Their strength was extraordinary, even when their freedom was limited. Still, we cannot ignore the emotional reality. Many girls were scared. Many cried on their wedding day. Many struggled with the sudden transformation from child to adult. But in their world, a world ruled by survival, emotion rarely changed the outcome. It's important to remember that medieval society looked nothing like modern society. The expectations were different. The rules were different. The dangers were different. The values were different. To them, early marriage was normal. To us, it is history's darker truth. As we look back from the comfort of our modern lives, we must see these girls not as statistics or historical footnotes, but as real human beings. Children forced to grow too quickly. Daughters shaped by fear and tradition. Young souls navigating a world far harsher than our own. Early marriage was the result of countless forces: faith, law, economy, survival, and social pressure, all colliding into a single expectation placed on a 12-year-old girl. And that is why medieval girls married so young. Not because they were ready for adulthood. Not because they chose to, but because their world demanded it. Because their families feared the alternative. Because society gave them no other path. This is the hidden truth of medieval childhood, a truth shaped not by love or choice, but by survival.